if we don't cope with pressure, what will it lead to? What will it inevitably lead to? Stress, absolutely. And I think what's interesting about stress is how we perceive it. And I want to stress this word perception, because we'll all react to different situations differently. And one day or 1 month or whatever the situation, we might find that we do cope, and yet a month or two later, in similar circumstances, we may not cope. And so what are those triggers? Why does that happen? So it's really important to be aware, particularly for yourself and people that you work with. We will all perceive a situation differently, and that may just trigger us to either cope with it well or struggle to cope with the pressure, and it may lead to stress. So what do I mean by positive stress? When can positive stress be a good thing? Can anyone give me an example of when it might be good to be under some positive stress? What will it allow you to do? If you have a presentation, you've got to perform, don't you? So just like an athlete, you can use that adrenaline to help you perform. And it implies that you're prepared, and that really helps you cope. So it will result in positive or negative stress. So just be aware that it may be different for you on different occasions in different circumstances. So let's have a look at some causes. I'm just going to introduce these quickly before we do the next exercise. Common factors that contribute to us feeling under pressure and sometimes when we don't cope. It could be things as simple as your working environment. And what I mean by there is, have you got natural light? Some things we sometimes take for granted. What's the aesthetics of your office? I used to be in sales in the food industry. My office was my car, and if lots of traffic jam, that was my working environment. That could cause a lot of pressure. The ergonomics of your workstation. Does that leaving you just feeling under pressure at the end of the day? Is your boss in your space? Do you work in an open plan office? That's going to contribute to you feeling pressure in your working environment. Long hours goes without saying, the pressure that can lead to. Relationships with your colleagues, the people that you work with. Is it a good relationship? Do you see eye to eye? Now, we haven't got time to go into detail of the different dynamics, although Patrick, when he talks about influencing after the coffee break, will give you a bit more insight into that. But again, if that's not managed proactively, it will put you under pressure, and it may lead to stress. And equally with your boss, in your career as you're starting out, it is important to proactively manage the relationships you have internally, in your team, across your different departments, and importantly, manage your boss. Manage your boss proactively. Other causes, having too much to do, again, potentially will lead to overwhelm, and equally having too little to do. I know that sounds a bit odd, but sometimes, particularly when you're starting a new job, or maybe a new role has been created, and there's just not enough work, you might feel pressure because you might be thinking, am I going to get made redundant? What's going to happen in this reorganisation if I don't have the opportunity to demonstrate what value that I'm offering? Lack of control. This is a big one. What I mean here is about change in the workplace. And as we saw from Nick's presentation, the pace of change is happening faster and faster and faster. It goes without saying. I know that's stating the obvious, but how that shows up for you in your job, you will be expected to cope. Depending on the style of management and leadership in your company, they'll just assume that you get on with it, and that will really put you under pressure, because all of us react to change differently. And sometimes, some of us embrace that change. I think fantastic new opportunity, how exciting. And for others, it can be quite unsettling. So that's what I mean by lack of control. It's out of your hands, or it may feel like it's out of your hands. Not feeling valued. We all want to be at work and be recognised for a job well done. It's a basic human need that we want to be acknowledged, we want to be recognised. And when we're not getting that feedback from our boss or peers or some form of recognition, your head, as I'll demonstrate shortly, will take you off down a spiral of, maybe I'm not doing as well as I thought, and it will put you under pressure. Hopefully none of you will experience bullying in the workplace, and I really hope none of you are now. And, obviously through your HR department or other avenues, there's ways to cope with that. And pressure to meet deadlines. And again, that's really driven by technology. Everything's faster, everything's instant. But as human beings, it's very hard for us to keep up with that. So what I'd like us to do is to have a look at what happens when we don't cope with that pressure. There is a cost to industry, and there is a cost to your team and your capability to operate as a high-performing team, and there is a cost to you as an individual.